Without a doubt, Xbox Game Pass is the best deal in all of gaming. It's an incredible service where they constantly add great games to it on a monthly basis, and this is why I have to update this list every 6 months. And I have to say, it has become increasingly difficult narrowing this down to just 25 games. My first rough draft of this list included 60 different titles. Yeah, I had to make some very tough choices to make a list of just the top 25 best games available on Xbox Game Pass, which is very telling on how good this service truly is. With that said, I did not include Gears, Forza, Minecraft, or Halo. We all know those are great games, and in fact they would be in my top 10, but I wanted to help you discover some other great games to play as well. Now, as I said before, it was very difficult narrowing this list down to just 25 games, so I do intend on making a separate list for the best hidden gems on Xbox Game Pass. So subscribe and stay tuned for that list too. Anyways, let's get right into it. At number 25, I have A Plague Tale, which is a strong narrative-driven action-adventure game. The story in A Plague Tale is where this game truly shines, as you play the role of a young girl trying to escape the Inquisition with her sickly little brother. And that's what stands out to me in A Plague Tale. It's very different than most games. You're not playing as some super powerful hero, but rather, you're playing as two vulnerable children, and that's how you feel. Instead of going in guns blazing, you need to sneak by your enemies, outsmart them, and complete various puzzles. We really don't get enough stealth-based games anymore, and A Plague Tale not only does it well, but it does it in its own unique way through its rat-infested plague-ridden world. A Plague Tale perfectly blends its story, setting, and gameplay. Now, if you like platformers, one of the better 2D platformers made within the last decade is Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. This is the second game made by Playtonic, which is made of former Rare developers, and you can definitely tell. Impossible Lair feels very similar to Donkey Kong Country, but with its own spin on the genre. While most platformers have a simplistic overworld where you choose levels, Playtonic instead decided to make it into a Zelda-like world, where you complete various puzzles to reach your next destination. It's also very challenging, the level design is incredible, and if you like platformers at all, this is a must-play. Outer Wilds, very simply put, is a masterpiece. Every once in a while a game will truly surprise you, and for me, that was Outer Wilds. I didn't go in expecting much from this game. I wasn't anticipating it, and I didn't even think I was going to enjoy it. But then I played it, and I was shocked. It was beautiful, mesmerizing, and constantly had me searching out more. It's a game all about its exploration and sense of discovery. See, you travel its small universe to unlock all of its secrets, which it has many. The universe explodes about every 20 minutes to where you wake up again from the very beginning. Why exactly is this happening though? That's something you'll have to find out yourself, and you're gonna want to know what's going on with its overarching story and its charming characters. As I said, it's a masterpiece. Insomniac Games has always made fun games such as Spyro, Resistance, Ratchet & Clank, and Spider-Man, but Sunset Overdrive ranks right up there with some of their best work. Like many of their other games, they let you play around with a lot of cool gadgets and creative weapons. But what makes Sunset Overdrive so good is its world that defies all reasonable explanation. You can zip across power lines, bounce on trees as if they're trampolines, and explode hordes of zombies with comic book-esque feedback. Even when you die, it has a ton of personality, as each spawn animation is nothing short of unique. In short, Sunset Overdrive is simply fun. Tetris Effect is another really surprising game. So true story, I got the Xbox Series X day one, and I decided to download Tetris Effect while waiting for other games to download. The thing is, it's not that big of a game, so it downloaded pretty fast. And I started to play it thinking I was just going to play it for like 5 or 10 minutes while I waited. Well, about 3 hours passed by as I quickly became addicted to Tetris Effect, its vibrant colors and synchronizing music. This proceeded for the next 2 or 3 days as well. This is probably the best Tetris has ever been, and it can be rather addicting. It blends its music, sound effect, vibrations, and just everything so perfectly. I didn't know how it was going to translate from the virtual reality version, but it once again is amazing, and it might surprise you as well. So I cheated here, and I actually included 2 different games within the same genre: Streets of Rage 4 and Battletoads. Both of these are superb beat-em-up games. Now, both of these are legendary beat-em-up franchises, but both are very different. Streets of Rage 4 absolutely excels with its retro mechanics, and as a pure brawler, I think it's the better of the two. The mechanics feel great with a number of different characters to play as, and you can jump in and play co-op online or offline. Battletoads, meanwhile, is more of a multi-genre game, mixing in platforming and, of course, its infamous Turbo Tunnel section. And yes, it is once again very challenging if you play on hard difficulty. It also has a pretty good story that plays out like a cartoon, which kind of surprised me. It, however, unfortunately is limited to only local co-op. Ultimately, though, I think both of these rank up there among some of the best beat-em-up games within the last decade, and I'd highly recommend them. The entire Kingdom Hearts franchise is now available on Xbox Game Pass, and I believe every gamer should experience Kingdom Hearts at least once. It's such a magical experience. Now, the story can be convoluted at times and doesn't always make sense, but it's certainly a fun experience all the same. Now, there is that question of which Kingdom Hearts should you play first? Well, you can start right away with Kingdom Hearts 3 as it is more modern, but if you want to follow the story, it is best to start with the first game. I know it's hard to play through that many games, but it's definitely worth it in my opinion. Now, Wasteland 3 is one of those games that kind of goes under the radar because of its genre, which is a shame really. This is actually one of the best RPGs available as of this moment. It has great strategical combat, there's meaningful decisions that affects the story, and it has a really good narrative. You can also play it cooperatively with a friend, which adds to the fun. So if you like old school RPGs, this is one you're not going to want to miss. If you haven't tried playing a game like this yet though, I do encourage you to start here. You might find a world and story that has you fully engrossed. When Sea of Thieves first launched, it was heavily criticized for its lack of content. Not that it was a bad game per se, because it wasn't, it just needed more content, and since it first released, it's gotten exactly that. It's got a lot going for it now with plenty to do. Whether you want to seek out other pirates to sink their ship and steal their treasure, go on raids, fish, or complete its story-related content, tall tales, there's a lot to do. There's also not a single game that feels quite like Sea of Thieves. It's unique and great at what it does. Not to mention just how absolutely gorgeous it looks. The ocean in this game still blows my mind to this day. It looks exceptional and plays just as well. Dragon Quest has finally made its way to Xbox, and it even released into Xbox Game Pass. Now, if you've missed out on this franchise in the past, Dragon Quest XI is a great introduction into the Dragon Quest franchise. Once again, it plays very similar to old-school turn-based JRPGs, and that's really interesting. With most modern JRPGs, they've went more towards being action games, but Dragon Quest XI has stuck to what made it so great in the first place. From beginning to end, whether that be with its great story and characters, with its world, or with its combat, it feels like a game that came straight from the 90s, and I say that in the best possible way. You can even play this game in 16-bit mode if you want. For any JRPG fan though, this is an absolute must-play. Rainbow Six has always been a really good franchise, but I think Siege put it over the top. And in fact, I would personally say that Rainbow Six Siege is one of the best competitive multiplayer games out right now. There's no other shooter that feels like Siege thanks to its tactical-based combat, with each operator having their own unique abilities. The sound design in particular has always really stood out to me in this game though. There is a stealth aspect to it as you try to coordinate with your team to attack or defend. The thing is, you can hear every little noise in this game, whether that be using various items or footsteps. Sound design doesn't get talked about much, but it really does add to the overall experience in Rainbow Six Siege. Now, it is important to note that Xbox Game Pass only includes the first 2 seasons of its operators, so you don't exactly get all of the content in this version, but it's still plenty enough to enjoy one of the best competitive shooters ever made. Next up, I have Killer Instinct, which is one of my personal favorite games and definitely my favorite fighting game ever made. This game doesn't get near as much recognition as it truly deserves, but you're not going to find a fighting game much better than this, if at all. The mechanics are top of its class, with each character feeling vastly different than one another. That's the thing about Killer Instinct though, each character is radically different. You can play as a killer robot, an insane Battletoad, a dinosaur, or even Arbiter from Halo. There are a lot of variants here, and its online competitive play is incredible. If you like fighting games at all, definitely check out Killer Instinct. As for Microsoft, please, let's bring back KI. There's not many franchises that gets more praise than Final Fantasy, and that's for good reason. These are legendary games dating all the way back to 1987, and luckily, Xbox Game Pass has a number of different Final Fantasy games. This includes 7, 8, 9, and 15, which are all great in their own way. 7, 8, and 9 are considered all-time greats, though if you want more of a modern experience, 15 fits the bill with its hack-and-slash combat. The thing about these games, though, and what makes them so special, is their worlds and characters. Square Enix has consistently created some of the most memorable characters, stories, and worlds with Final Fantasy. My personal favorites are 7 and 8, but really you can't go wrong with any of these games. To this day, I don't really know why Titanfall 2 doesn't get more recognition than what it does. Titanfall 2 is the complete package, which is rare for games anymore. It offers a fun competitive multiplayer experience and a surprisingly good single-player campaign. I wasn't expecting that, but Titanfall 2 stands tall among first-person shooters. You can run alongside walls with strong shooting mechanics and then jump into mecha titans to wreak havoc on the field. If for whatever reason you've missed out on this game so far, do yourself a favor and check Titanfall 2 out. Obsidian Entertainment has made some great games over the years, including Knights of the Old Republic, Fallout New Vegas, and Pillars of Eternity. Well, once again, they've done it with the Outer Worlds. Now, this is almost like a mix of Mass Effect and Fallout. You explore several different bite-sized planets, but the mechanics and the world itself feels very Fallout-esque, and that's something fans should be really excited about. After all, this is coming from the New Vegas studio. Obsidian also understands what makes a good RPG. It offers a fun world to explore where your decisions truly do matter. If you want to be a good Samaritan that saves the universe, you can absolutely do that. If all you want to be, though, is a bumbling fool that just goes out for himself, well, you can do that too. It's really all up to you. I often consider HELLBLADE to be one of the best story-driven games from last generation, and to this day, I still feel that way. The story really stands out in HELLBLADE, and it's got a lot of depth exploring the psyche and mental state of the mind. What's so crazy about this game, though, is that it was made by a very small team of maybe just around 20 developers. Yeah, it looks like a big AAA game visually, and I think the gameplay is underrated as well. It's more of a linear hack-and-slash game, but for me that's a good thing. I sometimes get a little tired of all of the big open-world games, and HELLBLADE is a nice change of pace from that. In fact, I think we need more games like this. I have to say though, I'm really excited to see what Ninja Theory can do next with HELLBLADE 2 and that extra budget they're afforded, being under Microsoft. Monster Hunter has always been popular in Japan, but for the first time it exploded worldwide with Monster Hunter World, and it's well deserved. It's an extremely addictive game as you hunt for new gear and items by taking on huge monsters that feel alive. It's rare for games to achieve this, but Monster Hunter World feels like a real lived-in world, and that's because of the unique personality that they gave each monster. They don't just interact with you, but they also interact with their environment and even each other. It also helps that it's a fun game, and you can even play it cooperatively with your friends. Just know if you do pick this game up, don't be surprised when you play it for hundreds of hours. Resident Evil 7 is a little different than previous Resident Evil games. While up to this point, Resident Evil has mainly been third-person shooter horror games, Capcom decided to switch things up by making it a first-person shooter. I wasn't sold on that right away, but then I played it and was blown away. This is a spooky game, and with it being in first person, it makes it just that much more claustrophobic. The setting, though, is what really gets you. You go to this haunted mansion-like place to find your girlfriend, but things take a really creepy turn. The story is really interesting, and that's what makes Resident Evil so much better than its competition. It's a great blend of setting, horror, gameplay, and story, and 7 fits in perfectly with some of its better installments. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is the second game on this list developed by Respawn Entertainment, which is a testament to the studio's talent. And luckily for Star Wars fans, this is probably the best single-player Star Wars game since Knights of the Old Republic. This is a nice mix of story with gameplay. It carries over Titanfall's wall-running mechanics and has a bit of a Dark Souls feel to it when it comes to combat. There is some precision required, and that's something I really appreciate with this game. Whether you're a Star Wars fan or not though, this is a good game worth a play. Remedy Entertainment is well known among Xbox fans for their work on games such as Alan Wake and Quantum Break. Both of those are also on Xbox Game Pass, by the way, but Control might be their best work yet. It's basically a big AAA third-person Metroidvania-style game, and I love the creativity within Control. It kind of reminds me of Christopher Nolan's movies in how creative they are. Your weapon will change and morph, as will the building that you travel in. It's brilliant when it comes to set pieces, and I consider Remedy masters of storytelling, and it's no different with Control. Now, with that said, I do have to note that this particular game can struggle on the original Xbox One. However, if you play on the Xbox Series, this game truly shines. It still kind of surprises me that I can put Yakuza games on an Xbox list, but after years of this franchise being exclusive to PlayStation, Sega decided to bring them over to Xbox and Xbox Game Pass. As of the making of this video, Yakuza 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 are all available. 3, 4, 5, and 6 will all be available later this month in January. Now, I will say I think Yakuza 0 is the best overall game, not just because it's the beginning of its story, but it's simply amazing. When it comes to its storytelling, you're not going to find much better, and Yakuza 0 in specific is nothing short of exceptional. However, these games have only Japanese dialogue, and I know that may turn off some people, but I promise you, if you stick with it, you're going to love it. NIER Automata blew me away the first time I played it. There's kind of a strangeness to this game, and not in a bad way. It's different and it just kind of pulls you in right away. The story itself is highly engaging, though you do need to reach the credits at least 3 times to complete it. The first time you reach the credits, it's not the end, so don't let that fool you. Then there's the gameplay, which mixes things up. It's easy to say this is just a hack and slash game, but it's also got shoot 'em up sections where you fly around as well. It's a nice change of pace, and it also has one of my favorite soundtracks ever in games. It's been a few years since I first played NIER Automata, and to this day, I go back and listen to its soundtrack. I do honestly believe this game in its entirety is a masterpiece. One of 2020's best games, Doom Eternal, came to Xbox Game Pass. This was a huge addition. It absolutely was a Game of the Year candidate, and it's also an all-time great first-person shooter. Yes, Doomslayer is back once again, thirsting for demon blood. It brings back that fast-paced but precise feel of Doom 2016 and ramps things up. You're going to run into a number of challenging demons, and that's something about Doom Eternal. It's not simply mindless fun. You're going to have to use some strategy in how you methodically destroy each demon. With that said, this is an insanely fun game. Okay, so I cheated here again by including 2 separate games. Ori and the Will of the Wisps and Hollow Knight are both amazing Metroidvania-style games. Now, they actually play quite a bit different from one another. Ori emphasizes its platforming and story a little more. Its platforming rivals even the best 2D platformers such as Rayman and Mario. And then Hollow Knight has a heavier focus on its combat. I often like to refer to Hollow Knight as the Dark Souls of the Metroidvania genre. Now, I will say that I think Ori and the Will of the Wisps has great combat as well. It was a huge improvement over its first game, Ori and the Blind Forest. Really though, if you like Metroidvania games, both of these are among the very best. And at the number 1 spot, I have none other than The Witcher 3. This has become a true classic by this point, and will be remembered for decades to come thanks to its brilliant story, memorable characters, top-notch RPG mechanics, and fantastic world. Its combat is different than other games, but also very good. There's also the side quest, which ironically is better than some full games. I mean, just from top to bottom, The Witcher 3 is second to none. I really can't say enough good about it. This isn't just simply one of the best Xbox Game Pass games, but it's one of the best games, period. However, if you do like The Witcher 3, Thronebreaker is also available on Xbox Game Pass. That's another good Witcher experience and majorly overlooked. Anyways though, that's it for this video, but if I missed any of your favorite games, make sure to let me know in the comments below. With that said, if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.